yours is too, but there's a list, several lists on the dark web that have a lot of creators on TikTok specifically. If you've posted anti-Trump content, our names are on lists on the dark web. I used to work. What?
I've been on lists for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what Tony said to me when I was like, hey, I just think like I'm in a situation now where I can find my name on the dark web on more than one list, which I can now directly link these same lists I'm talking about to people who have been disappeared, right? Like, so these aren't lists that are just like, oh, nothing's ever going to happen, right? People who speak out against Trump are in fact being faced with litigation. Like, this is not me being overwhelmed. And the last time I contacted him, I was like, hey, I can find my list or name on multiple lists on the dark web of these quote unquote nonprofits who are making lists of people who oppose Trump online, that they are using these lists to then disappear or, you know, tie people up in litigation. And Tony's like, I've been on lists for years. That was his response to me. Who cares?
But I have been on lists for years, you know. I mean, I'm a foreign agent. I mean, it's just one of those things that I had to do. I mean, I'm known from one side of the government to the other side. You know this. So yeah, I've been on all of these lists. Yeah, sometimes I get where that's why when you reached out to me, I said, of course I'd help you.
Okay.
If people don't know, there are Republican nonprofits who are forming lists of students who've ever been to a pro-Palestinian protest, of creators who make pro-Palestinian content. All of these lists are being formed on the dark web, and they're used to disappear people.
But Felice, if you look at my alternate account, you will see that I post pro-Palestinian, in your face, anti-Republican.
Tony, you're a billionaire. I don't think they're coming for you. I don't think the government can afford to disappear you.
I actually almost sometimes want to say, put posts out there and say to the Secretary of State, come after me. Let's see where you go with it.
Yes, let's do that. Why don't you? Yeah. Why don't you could be the martyr for attention that's like, I'm just standing in the way of the left. I'm the only person in between you and them. Can you just answer me this? So the big, beautiful bill, it's the largest transfer of wealth in a bill in the history of the United States. Thoughts on that?
It makes no difference to me whatsoever. That's my thought.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't. It's not going to affect you.
Well, absolutely. I don't understand why it's been done. I mean, I understand some of the things when you were talking about the Medicare or the Medicaid. I mean, I understand how traumatic that is for people to lose that benefit. I mean, I grew up in a social country where Medicaid was for everybody. So it's what I've been used to. I've never understood why we have collectively not done anything about it now. I mean, the only thing that I could say is perhaps, and I mean this with all sincerity, perhaps if enough people lose it over the next 4 years, that if the Democrats get back into power, they might actually pull their fucking fingers out of their ass, which they haven't done for the last 20 years, and force it through. Because nobody seems to do it. You all talk about it. Hang on about it, Mr. Veteran. Everybody talks about it, but nobody gets it done. And I am actually
How would it go about getting it done, though?
Well, how about let's electing the people?
How would you go about forcing it through? Like, explain that to me.
Well, first of all, you've obviously got to have the electoral people. You've got to have the numbers in Congress to do it. So if you want to be able to, if there's enough people in this country that will lose it and they will go, because a lot of this is going to be from, let's just say, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia.
Tony, I could use your own words against you, though. Tony, you once screamed at me when I was screaming at you about abortion law. You told me that because you're rich, because you pay money, because you can give hundreds of thousands or millions to causes, that your opinion matters more than mine. That is something that you shared with me, right? So you are now giving advice about if we just have a majority, when you very much understand how Congress works and how Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, was universal health care. And once lobbyists get their hands on it, once money comes into play inside Congress, what came out was what it looked like after lobbies got a hold of it.
Well, let me ask a question. You said if, the voters supported a universal Medicare for all type system, then something could happen. 57% of people in this country support the idea of a Medicare for all system. So why hasn't it happened yet?
Because because we don't have a direct democratic way of electing. We have a Republican form of government, which allows the elected representatives at the end of the day to make the decisions on behalf of the people.
And so if 57% of the people, if 57% of the people want this to happen, then why aren't the representatives that represent the people in Congress making it happen?
Because the people don't vote for their best interests. It's very simple.
Okay, yeah, but again, you said if the people wanted it, then they would be able to do it in Congress, is what you said.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so the people want it to happen. So why isn't it happening?
Then they'd have to vote for the party that they don't like.
Again, you said that if the people wanted it to happen. Okay,
Mr. Veteran, don't get tied up in the pedantics.
Well, okay, great. No, you see, I'm not getting tied up in the pedantics. So what you're saying is that people need to vote a specific way to get them in, right?
That is correct.
So why isn't that happening?
Because most people are fucking stupid.
Oh.
Simple as that.
How you hear it.
Straight
out of the billionaire's mouth.
Hold on. So most people in the United States are fucking stupid. Yeah. And that's why they keep voting in Republicans.
That may well be the case.
I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with the Republican Party continuing to strip the Voter Rights Act, continuing to block legislation that makes gerrymandering illegal, and preventing people from going to the polls to vote, right?
I can mathematically, Tony, I can make a mathematical argument for how just voter suppression in the swing states decided the election. It is true. And I'm talking about MAGA nonprofits challenging the voter rolls. I can take you through a mathematical argument of how Tony, just voter suppression.
Explain to me, billionaire who thinks that, who doesn't have an opinion on this obscene transfer of wealth in the big, beautiful bill because it's not going to affect you. Explain to me how the American voter is stupid and they're not being suppressed with their vote through gerrymandering and voter suppression legislation.
Gerrymandering, listen, if you're going to talk over me just and try to silence me, go ahead. Go ahead. If you want to have a conversation,
I will.
Because one thing is,
explain to me gerrymandering.
Tony, you can't wax poetic for hours either.
For absolute sure. Don't give me this fucking childish remarks about, please explain gerrymandering. Because gerrymandering happens in every fucking town, every county.
Hold on. Don't mute him, please. Don't mute him. Unmute yourself, Tony.
Tony gets more hysterical when muted. It's actually... When you silence people who were silenced as children, then they become more hysterical when muted. Tony, just unmute yourself. Stop acting like you can't.
I didn't mute. Someone muted me. I didn't unmute myself.
I understand.
I have been a Democrat. I have been a Democrat supporter for the last 30 years.
Democratic, for the love of God, it's democratic.
Don't give me this nonsense. Okay, I've been a Democrat.
Not my question at all.
Don't give me this about.
Literally didn't ask. Literally did not ask about your political affiliation at all, so I don't understand how that has any relevance to what I asked you, Tony.
You didn't ask me anything.
Restate the question. Yeah, just state the question again.
I literally did. You said that the American voter is too stupid. And I said, is it that they're stupid or that there has been a concerted effort by the conservative right in this country to make it harder to vote, and Republicans overwhelmingly, I'm not saying Democrats don't do it, but Republicans have got it down to a fucking art that they draw their districts to pick their voters and not the voters picking their representatives. Explain to me how that isn't the problem that's preventing the United States of America from moving into a single payer healthcare system.
No, we had the opportunity to move into a single-payer healthcare system many years ago, and we still didn't take it. When it was originally proposed under the Obama administration, and we got it passed with a compromise.
What happened, Tony?
And what happened, Tony?
I am fully aware of what happened.
No,
well,
you're
say
not.
no. Then
Because
you
you're
repeat
still
it.
arguing.
Demonstrate proficiency. What happened when that bill got to Congress, Tony? And I know you know what happened to the Affordable Care Act.
Kennedy passed away with a brain tumor. They then had to put a Republican in, and we couldn't get the full vote that we needed, and therefore a compromise had to happen. And the compromise part that we had meant that the insurance companies then got compensation as private entities.
Right.
Well, whether or not you want to call it whether or not you want to call it
and
lobbies,
chopped that bill up.
When was the next time that we had the ability to completely redo it? We had the ability to do this several times. We just haven't looked at it. We haven't done anything about it because there is a great compromise.
Since the Obama administration, when has the Senate been a supermajority Democrat run?
It hasn't been a supermajority.
Oh, okay. So then how could Democrats force it through then?
I never said force it through.
Did he not say force it through? Why wouldn't they just force it through when they had the chance?
We have had every opportunity to have open and frank discussions about how bad the healthcare service is in this country.
Those conversations still happen, Tony.
Because they
Tony,
don't
those
happen.
conversations happen in Congress right now.
Do you remember John McCain putting his big fucking thumb down and saying, "Not on my watch"?
Kill the Affordable Care Act entirely?
Yes, right. I remember. Yes, we all do. Do you remember when John fucking Roberts actually turned around and he saved the Affordable Care Act when he went against the Republicans and said, no, I'm not doing this? We have had this public conversation many fucking times, and yet nobody runs with it. Okay, so you can sit there on your high horse and say that nothing can be done, but it can be. Hold on, we have had a fucking Republican. Hang on, Mr. Angry. We have had.
What do you mean nobody runs with it? The Democrat Party has been actively pushing for
Medicare for all. We have had one of the major senators in the Republican Party support it, but yet we still don't put it as a national fucking issue. So you can argue about the Republicans as much as you want, because you're not doing anything about it.
Hey, Tony, don't have a heart attack on my live, okay? All right, Chef Boyardee, don't have a heart attack on my live, okay?
It is. Here's what I
want to know, because Tony, when you first
stop
came up
blaming the Republicans for it.
Are you serious, Tony?
Hold on, Tony. Why the fuck would I not blame the Republicans, Tony?
Can we hold on? Let me just reset. Okay, everyone, let's go to our corners for a second. Everyone get a 5-second spritz of water in their mouth and take a deep breath before. Seriously, Tony, you're nearing a brain aneurysm.
Yeah,
and
Tony,
anyways, I need you to find me when I'm disappeared. So just don't die. Tony, I think you do know who's opposing universal health care in this country, but this is my point, and this is what I'll say. What I cannot stand is when you start referencing like, oh, it's universal health care, it's everyone denying it. I'll say the best I'll give you is there are some centrist Democrats who have been bought by lobbyists who maybe are staving off universal health care. But this is what I know. It absolutely is the case, because I've always followed the money, and I know for a fact that's the case.
The issue.
But wait, let me just finish let me land my plane. Where I was going with this is, but in countries like Spain, like England, where you're a dual citizen, like Italy, where Mussolini's granddaughter is quite literally running the country, and it's the rise of the fascist right, take two. All of those people, I don't care if you're the farthest right fascist or the farthest left communist, you can go to the doctor for free. So when you are saying who in fact is opposing universal health care in this country, I think that it is who, Tony? Corporations and people that through privatized profit benefit from privatized health care. Can you agree with that statement?
Well, yes, of course I could agree with that statement.
And then the misinformation, like I'll agree with you that
hang on,
wait, let me just finish to say, like, and what I think is happening, which is coming from the Republican Party, there was a ton of misinformation and disinformation being spread, right, about healthcare and universal healthcare in this country to make people think for some reason they don't either deserve it or it's not fiscally sound.
Well, I won't go on to whether or not we deserve it or not, because I just believe that that's an issue that everybody should have taken care of. There's no doubt about that.
Do you believe healthcare is a human right?
Yeah, absolutely, I do.
Thank you. Okay.
So the as to whether we can afford it, that's a more complex issue.
Why?
It's not.
Hang on a second. I've gone through this issue many times before. I'm very closely associated with obviously pharmaceutical companies because the food company the
profiting from them.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Well, it's more to the point that the food company,
pharmaceutical company's opinion on universal health care, please.
Well, this is the difference. This is what I'm saying, is that, for example, St. Jude Medical. Mm-hmm. St. Jude Medical would come up with or developed pacemaker systems that we would have. Mm-hmm. The pacemaker systems that we would sell in the United Kingdom for approximately $12,000 a pacemaker. Okay. So that was the standard amount that we would pay. So that was a contract that the British government had with St. Jude's. Here in the United States, we would sell those to a hospital, and the hospital would say to us, well, we're not going to pay you $12,000. We only want to give you $6,000 for it. So they would then buy it from us for $6,000 on a contract. They would then charge the hospital $12,000, and the hospital would charge the insurance company $22,000. So because of the way that the system worked, our product, which was half the price here in the US, we were making double the amount of money in a socialized medical system. But because of the way the medical system is ratcheted up in the United States with one after the other level of profitability, the end up price to the consumer becomes much greater.
Okay, thank you, Tony. You'll never land your plane if I don't interrupt you. Can I just explain to everyone what this capitalist billionaire just described? What Tony is saying is because of the unnecessary middlemen that have also been created, like the insurance companies and like another example is the pharmaceutical managers, right, who get these kickbacks. There's these different sort of silos, verticals, capitalistic verticals that are unnecessary in the American healthcare system. Then he, as a capitalist billionaire, is making less profit, and that's super annoying to him. That has nothing to do with whether or not it is fiscally responsible and or possible for us to have universal health care. This is a capitalist being like, because of the insurance industry, because of people like pharmaceutical managers, my profit is being eaten into. Whereas in the UK, because they have legislation to cut all of those people out of these deals, he is still able to make a bigger profit. That's what he's saying. But I agree that we need to cut all of these unnecessary capitalistic industries out. But just say that, Tony. Stop.
You've got to understand the way the system works before you can say it, because the reality is that is what we would all call a win-win.
This doesn't have
my company
any
wins,
bearing on can this country afford universal health care.
Yeah, that was the conversation, Tony. And then you're like, let me talk to you about how I, as a billionaire, make money.
Yeah.
Right.
Like nobody
So the
gives a fuck
reality,
about how
the
much money you
reality
make
is,
selling
in
pacemakers.
order to make the margins that are needed to make throughout different industries, the prices are obviously exaggerated here. And that goes down to the way the entire corporations are funded and profitabilities, because I say this time
Yes,
and
we
time
get
again.
it. Capitalism is bad. We understand. Explain to me
Capitalism-
how the United States of America cannot afford universal health care.
I just explained it because we
No,
have
you
so
explained to me
many
why you would
levels.
lose money on pacemakers. That's what you
If
explained to me.
if I can't afford to make the pacemaker,
Who funded a lot of the
Who
research
don't make
for
Please
pacemakers?
stop. Oh my
I
God,
don't make
can't.
no, I don't make pacemakers.
No, Tony, who funded a lot of the research for pacemakers?
U.S. government.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's
Yes.
what we do.
Yes, Tony. Yes, Tony.
Well,
As a matter
then,
of fact, the NIH had billions
You're welcome.
of dollars in
Then we
medical
sell
research
those
grants.
patents to pharmaceutical industries.
Right.
Yeah.
So this idea that like, oh no, fucking medical research would stop because insurance companies can't make money is fucking stupid, Tony. That's stupid.
Let me ask you a question, Tony. I understood what you said. It was a lot of, as you say in the UK, blathering, but I agree with you. We need to cut out a lot of fake and pointless capitalistic industries and middlemen in the US healthcare industry, right? I agree, which we can easily do. I mean, we could if people understood how the healthcare industry was working, but that's
we have
Unfettered
had,
capitalism
and that
didn't
goes
turn
back-
healthcare into a
and
for-profit industry.
That goes back to exactly what I said before.
no.
Yes,
We
that
have
repeat it
pacemakers would be
slowly.
more. You
Administration
would not make as
after
much.
administration to change the way this works, and yet we still don't do it. And
Why?
that has been the Democrats
Right.
and the
No.
Republicans.
No.
Yes, it has.
It hasn't.
Cry it out loud.
It hasn't. The Affordable Care Act had a provision in it that was going to put us into a single payer system that would have given people
When
health
did
care. And the corporate
when
medical
did the
industry
Affordable Care
lobbied
Act
for that to
come
go away.
When did it come in? It was 2008. It's
Yep.
almost 20 fucking years old. And if you are telling me that over the last 20 years that both Democrats and Republicans have sat back
Tony,
and
you
tried
are
to do
absolutely
this, then
100%
you are-
just explaining how you do not understand how this process works.
I absolutely know how it works. I'm
No,
part
you
of
don't.
the process.
Because
Well,
you're
actually,
saying that-
I do think he does, and I think he's disingenuously
Just being purposefully
obfuscating.
disingenuous?
Like, it's even worse, Tony, than the truth. I think you do get it, and you're
just being
obfuscating
an ass?
and being an yeah. That's actually
Okay.
what I think is
That-
closer
that
to. I think he
tracks.
does get it.
That tracks. You probably do understand. You're just being intellectually dishonest to 645 people right now. Okay? I'll give you that. You probably do understand how it works.
I promise you
You're
he
just
does.
being intellectually dishonest to everybody sitting in this chat right now.
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, hey, and Tony,
when-
you know what? Hey, if I was a billionaire that didn't have to worry about any of this shit either, then yeah, I'd probably be doing the same shit. I probably wouldn't care either.
If you were desperate for healthcare, Tony,
You're
it would
gonna be
matter a
fine.
little more, I think.
You're gonna be
That's
fine.
the reality. If
You
you
know?
were desperate for
Yeah.
healthcare,
None
if
of
you
this
were
shit.
desperate for change, everything you're describing, let me tell you about how I make all this money and my percentage
Yeah.
profit off pacemakers. Do you understand that people can't go to the doctor when they need basic antibiotics? And how that's a slap in the face for people
Yeah.
that have to listen to you?
Yeah.
No one
Because-
cares.
But Tony,
It cost me
but-
How
$4
most
million
people, did
for
you
my
say
daughter
most
to
people
be
can't, or did you say
cancer.
some
Yes.
people can't?
No, most people in the United States, not some people, most people. Most
You're saying
people
most
in the
people
United-
cannot go
most
to-
people
most
in the
people
United
cannot
States of
go to
America
the
do
doctors.
not have the financial means to go and get the necessary medication that they need to.
I don't believe that.
benefit. I don't care what you believe, Tony. That's
Well,
the
show me.
facts.
Just
That's
give
the
me. Show me
statistic.
those facts. Then.
What?
Show me how
Uninsured
most
people in the
people
United
cannot.
States?
Or you're saying most uninsured? You're saying uninsured people.
Yeah, uninsured people in the United States. You want data on that?
Most people are not uninsured.
Okay, but Tony, you do understand that insurance works differently for every single person.
Yeah,
right?
and that's ridiculous.
Just because you have insurance doesn't mean that you're going to be able to afford to go and get what you need done. You do understand that, right?
No, he doesn't understand that. I promise you he doesn't. Tony, when I worked in the tech industry before I rose in the ranks and became, a rainmaker when I was making 6+ figures, and then they're like, oh, here's the medical insurance for people we want to keep alive. My first tier of medical insurance, I was basically paying if I needed a prescription, I was paying 100%. You're so far removed from reality, right? Or if I needed to see a specialty doctor, or let's say if I had to go to the ER, I was responsible for $2,000 cash out of pocket in the ER before they would cover anything. I don't think when you say insurance, you're acting like that means something. Yeah. Insurance in America covers nothing.
It doesn't cover anything. See, that's what I'm saying, Tony. You have a fundamental misunderstanding of what being insured in the United States of America means.
I actually do not. I understand it very well. I understand.
No, you don't, Tony, because
hang on. Before you say I don't, before you say I don't, how about you listen to me instead of
demonstrate understanding? Demonstrate understanding.
Why would I? What? Let me.
If I can demonstrate understanding, if you shut your mouth. I understand that people buy. I understand. What? Let's have a look. First of all, we've got Medicaid, and Medicaid is basically defined for those people who basically get 130% below the poverty line, which basically means they get everything taken care of. And one of the arguments I have had because
great.
Do you just want to let me talk, or you just want to fucking tell me?
No,
because my fucking position blows way you.
No, I kind of just want to tell you.
I don't understand. So I will tell you that Medicaid covers 130%.
I'm glad that you brought up Medicaid,
which means there are no fucking co-pays for poor people.
I'm glad you brought up Medicaid.
There are no co-pays.
Let's go back to the big, beautiful bill. I also know that
many states don't give their Medicaid to people, and I understand that there are many. I understand that there are many states like Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, West Virginia who have refused to sign on for expanded Medicaid. I understand all of that. And then we've got the Affordable Care Act. I also understand that Trump tried to reduce the ability to get onto the Affordable Care Act. And the sponsorship. Hang on a second. Don't overtalk me. If you want a conversation, don't fucking keep on telling me what you think I know.
Donald Trump did not try to reduce the ability of people to get onto the Affordable Care Act. He tried to repeal the law entirely.
I understand that. Did you not understand what I said when I said about John McCain?
What you said was that Donald Trump tried to reduce people's ability to get onto the Affordable Care Act.
He has reduced the enrollment fucking time period. Did you not understand, or did that go through your thick skull and bounce off the fucking wall of concrete?
You're so angry, Tony. Chill out, bro.
Oh, yeah, I can get more fucking angry than you. So when I say something, don't fucking cut it to pieces.
We win, Tony. You're the angriest.
Fantastic, Tony.
So, so what else would you like me to tell you about the people that are and the silver and the gold plans? Would you like to tell me about the fucking deductibles that people have to go through, whether or not they have a $5,000 deductible, a $10,000 deductible, a $20,000? I fucking understand the differences between that.
How many people can?
I understand
an ambulance in the United States, Tony? How much does it cost to go? How much does it cost to go see your primary care manager, Tony?
For me, it doesn't cost anything.
I'm not asking for you, Tony. You're a billionaire. I don't give a fuck.
For a lot of people, it costs more than they can afford. I understand that. They will pay depending on their policy that they have.
Hold on, Tony. So those people that have insurance aren't able to go to their primary care manager because, according to you, it will cost more than they can afford.
No, it depends on what policy they have.
Tony. Literally just said that.
What is the number one type of bankruptcy in the United States?
Well, actually, it's no longer medical.
Tony, answer the question. You know the answer. Just answer it.
I actually don't know.
It's medical bankruptcy.
It used to be medical bankruptcy.
For people who did not inherit billions of dollars.
They changed
No,
the
they
law
did.
on that. You can
Oh,
no
and
longer
Trump
be
is
made
undoing that.
bankrupt.
No, I know what you're talking about.
You cannot be made bankrupt for medical bills right now.
No,
So
that
you
was what
can't
Joe
use that.
Biden.
You can
Hold
say,
on. Can I correct you?
No,
Can I correct
Tony,
you?
you're wrong.
Can I correct
You're
you?
wrong.
You're
You're
wrong.
wrong, Tony.
That's not true. Joe
What was-
Biden tried to do that. Joe Biden tried to cancel out medical debt from credit scores
Yeah.
and say you cannot be punished for this, and that has now been undone.
Yeah.
You're
When was
wrong.
that
And again,
What-
and I
what
just
you
want to
were-
say
what you
something.
were thinking about,
Medical
Tony,
debt
wasn't-
is the number one type. Medical bankruptcy is the number one type of bankruptcy. Everyone in America, the average person, not you, I know not you, Tony, is one illness away from bankruptcy. It happened to me 5 years ago. That's a fact.
Tony, what you're thinking about was the Biden administration's attempt to make medical debt